Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions in Podcastings. Today's video, we are going to be continuing Naruto, The Tale of Two Sages, What If Naruto Was Louise's Familiar, Part 4. As always, if you are new to the channel, or if you enjoy today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting stats to come out now and in the future. Also, if you haven't, please check out our earlier installments of this series so you can be caught up as we go into today's part 4. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Shortly after defeating the enemy forces, Naruto returned back to the campus, along with Louise and the others. Of course, Jiraiya, along with the headmaster Osman and Mr. Colbert, were working tirelessly trying to figure out a way to undo the familiar spell. The problem was that this was a situation that had honestly never happened. The idea of summoning a familiar and then undoing the contract, that was something that couldn't easily be broken. As such, they were pouring through many possibilities. Jiraiya trying a few himself, but unfortunately, no matter what they did, Naruto was still stuck there. Of course, Naruto wanted to get back home. He missed Kakashi, Sakura, Tsunade, and all of his other friends. But still, for the most part, Naruto kind of enjoyed being in this world by himself. At least in the sense that he didn't have to worry too much about the Akatsuki, or for that matter, he didn't have to worry about getting anywhere necessarily fast. Sure, this world's power was a bit strange, and the people here were capable of doing things that he couldn't, but for the most part, he held his own fairly well. There was also an ever-growing tension in this world as well. Even though Naruto had managed to save Prince Wales, unfortunately, due to the civil war in his country of Albion, it resulted in his untimely demise. Of course, no one took it harder than Princess Henrietta, who was now going to be sworn into being queen soon. Naruto wondered if she were doing alright. At least he hoped she was. He couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose someone that was close to him in that way. All the same though, Naruto still continued trying to help Louise, although comically it only resulted in more and more explosions, way more than the typical that Louise was capable of. No matter what she did, she just was not that skilled at magic, or at least not in the basics. Now granted, she was sought out potentially for having void magic, the one kind of magic that could potentially get them out of this situation, but the problem was that Louise was so bad at it that honestly, to think of her as being the potential solution to their problems wasn't really something that was to be expected. Of course, in the meantime though, Louise and Naruto would try their best to be amicable with their relationship. For one, Naruto would help her out with chores, as he had the shadow clones and the powers to do it. Sometimes, Louise would have just wished that he would want to stay here. I mean, in terms of being a familiar, Naruto was probably the strongest or at least most capable of them all to have ever been summoned. Even the shadow clone technique that he used alone was more than versatile. If that was all he had, then that would honestly be something far greater than what any of the others could possibly do. But Naruto could do that and more. For Louise, she wasn't sure why, but she just didn't want him to go. And of course, it wasn't like Naruto was going around complaining about not being able to leave. But at the same time, she kind of hoped that maybe they wouldn't find a way. At the same time, there was the inauguration of the Queen, Princess Henrietta now being sworn into the oath, of being the new ruler of the kingdom. As Naruto were out in the crowd with Louise, in the midst of watching the princess walk by the crowd, Naruto became enamored. Princess Henrietta was very cute. Naruto couldn't deny that. The two of them even locking eyes for a brief moment. Of course, Louise feeling as though Naruto were being some sort of perv for leering at her friend for too long, the two would get into a bit of a commotion. From out of nowhere, a female warrior, known by the name of Agnes, a leader of the Musketeer Force, would arrive on the scene, trying to place Naruto and Louise under arrest, believing that they were assassins. Of course, Naruto had no problem dodging any attack she tried to throw at him. Even with her skills in the sword, Naruto was just that much better. She tried to place them under arrest, and when Henrietta saw what was happening, she desperately tried to tell Agnes to calm down, but Agnes wasn't having it. Naruto, seeing as how she wasn't going to listen to reason, just decided to hide away with Louise, the two of them being cloaked as Naruto used the transformation jutsu on them both. Once they were free and secure, they would wait for things to calm down a bit, before eventually they would be summoned to Princess Henrietta's home. Now being made the queen, Henrietta was happy to see the two of them there. As they arrived, Agnes, who was also in attendance, would be a bit angered seeing Naruto's face. Naruto smiled as he tried to calm her down, telling her that it was all just one big misunderstanding, but Agnes made it very clear that she didn't trust Naruto. For one, she had heard about the story of him coming from another world. They had no way of knowing if that were even true or not. For all they knew, he could be an assassin undercover, getting ready to help an enemy country by killing off the queen by gaining her trust. Naruto felt a bit hurt by this, the fact that someone would make such an accusation, but in the end he kinda had to understand. After all, in the world that he came from, it wasn't uncommon for that sort of thing to take place. Assassinations, betrayal, deceit, all of that was rampant in the ninja world. Although Naruto assured that he wasn't trying to harm the new queen, he was Louise's familiar and they had been summoned there. Once everything was as smooth over as it could be, Henrietta would apologize for before, and she would hope that in the future she could rely on Naruto and Louise as well. The two of them having great power could be capable of helping the country. Naruto would blush bashfully hearing this, as no one had ever been that dependent on him before, especially a cute girl. He nervously nodded his head, letting her know that he'd help her do anything if she needed it, and Louise vowed to do the same. As they were making their way home, Louise would poke at Naruto a bit, as she could see by the look on his face he was definitely thinking about her. Once they had eventually made it home, Jiraiya would be waiting for Naruto, Louise going inside as the two of them talked. Yeah, Prairie Sage? Do you really have to call me that even in another world? Yeah, I do. So what's the issue? I've been thinking. We don't know how long we're going to be here. And we can't just let your senses get dull in the meantime. My senses? Yeah. I feel you've picked up on it as well as I have, haven't you? Compared to us, in this world, it seems our power might far surpass any of the ones here. Although I don't doubt that there are definitely some strong foes, I think that for the most part, compared to the average citizen, you and I probably have more power than it's worth. I don't want your senses to get dulled while fighting in this world, believing yourself so strong that no one can beat you. Never minding the fact that when we get back to our world, we're still going to have many other enemies to deal with. I understand. So what exactly am I going to be doing? Well, since we have the time, I believe we should start focusing on your elemental training. Oh yeah. I don't actually know what mine is. I know. Well, even for everything you learned during our 2.5 years together, there was still a lot that we weren't able to go through. But now since we have this time, we can get more of your training down, help you be more refined in your skill. Jiraiya would take a leaf and fling it to Naruto, Naruto catching it between his fingers. I want you to channel your chakra into that leaf. And what's it gonna do? It'll determine your chakra nature. Depending on what happens to the leaf, we'll know what we're working with. Naruto understood and he focused. He pushed some of his chakra into the leaf and it shredded into pieces like it had been cut. So you're a wind user, Jiraiya would say. Really? That's how you could tell? Of course. Now, typically we use chakra paper. A leaf works just as fine. Depending on what would have happened, it would have told me what your chakra nature was. The way it was sliced up like that, that's the wind affinity. For fire, it would have burnt and charred. If it were water, it would have become soaking wet. If it were earth, it would have crumbled into pieces, naturally. And if it were lightning, it would shrivel up, like paper being crushed. But you have the wind affinity, so we can now work on your wind release. And also, Jiraiya pulled out the scroll that they had gotten from Osmond. This contains jutsu from the first Hokage. I was debating whether or not I wanted you to learn anything from it. I looked it over myself to see what would or what wouldn't be within your parameters. I don't think you'll be able to get much out of all of the jutsu here. After all, there are certain things that you just naturally can't do that the first Hokage did. And what's that? For one, you don't have wood release, so a good half of the information in here would be pointless for you. Wood release? Wait, that's not one of the primaries? No, wood release was something entirely different. Of course, by the time I was born, the first Hokage had long since died in war, although now from what we've learned, he was sent to this world instead, and this was his resting place. But there are still some jutsu here that you might be able to use, and I think it could help in your next stage of training. But I'll save that for a future date and time. For now, you should go and get some rest. I'll let you know when we get started in the future. Naruto would nod to his master as he went inside to sleep for the night. To learn jutsu that was used by the first Hokage? That could be a game changer for him. Of course, if he was really going to have that much time to learn and master new techniques, then just how long were they planning on being here? Naruto hoped that it wasn't for too long. He still wanted to try to get back home. Like in the original, Princess Henrietta would still be kidnapped by a being using the body of her dead friend, Prince Wales. However, with thanks to Naruto and his quick speed, once Agnes had informed Naruto and Louise of what had happened, it didn't take Naruto long to be on pursuit. Just running on his own, he was a lot faster than any of the others, even on horseback. Naruto being able to blitz across the land rather effectively. What would have took at least half a day's journey, Naruto cut down to a few hours, and the others would catch up when they could. Naruto would eventually arrive to where Princess Henrietta had been taken, along with the fake whales. They were by a lake, one that Henrietta was very familiar with. A place where the two of them had made their vow to never leave one another. Naruto would get between them. It didn't take an expert to see that she was under some kind of control. Naruto cursing under his breath as he never had a knack for genjutsu, So whatever type of mind control this was, it was just simply out of his element. Of course, Naruto and the fake whales would go into combat. Naruto pulling his sword from his back, Durf, as they battled against the fake prince. It wasn't really anything all that much to it. It was the use of a dead body, and in the end there was only but so much that could be done. Once it was struck down, Henrietta would awaken. Seeing the corpse of her now dead friend, it would cause many emotions to stir within her. However, Naruto would pull her into a hug. Naruto? It's okay, Henrietta. It's not. He's really gone, isn't he? I'm afraid so. It's not fair. Wales was... He was the kindest person I know. And he died because of this stupid war. Neither of us even won it, so why? Why did this have to happen? For Naruto, he wasn't sure of what to say. What could he say? After all, in the world that he had come from, something like this, it wasn't uncommon at all. In fact, Naruto, he had seen this situation play out many times before. But now he saw that it affected everyone. No matter what your position was in life, whether you be a poor citizen or whether you be the queen of a country, the feeling of pain and the feeling of loss, that was something that affected everyone. Of course, Naruto wished that he could give Henrietta something. The only thing he could do was hug her. I know. It's not fair. This will never be fair, Henrietta. But sometimes the best thing we can do for the ones we love is to not let their memory be in vain. The best thing that we can do is to keep living. But it hurts. I know. It's going to hurt for a long time. And I'm sorry to say, but it might not ever go away completely. But I would like to think that your friend here, at the very least, he cared about you deeply, and you know this. And because of that, I don't think he'd want you to throw away your life. If anything, he'd want you to keep living. And that way, as long as you remain, then he'll always be here. There were teary eyes. Henrietta looked up towards Naruto, as the two of them were now locked in with one another. Naruto staring into her eyes deeply under the light of the moon. He could see that she truly was a thing of beauty. She was a queen, essentially. A queen in his very arms. And yet, there was so much more to her. At least there was more that Naruto wanted to learn. Of course, before anything could happen, Louise and the others would arrive, making sure that Henrietta was safe. Of course she was, and she was grateful that Louise had made it, along with everyone else. Naruto was a bit bummed out that they couldn't have had their moment a bit longer, but she was smiling again. So honestly, that was all that mattered to him. Before long, as Naruto continued his new now daily training, Jiraiya would watch over him as Naruto took to learning mastery over wind release, being able to use it in conjunction with his sword, which Naruto was getting more accustomed to. His skills as a shinobi and as a fighter were growing day by day. Naruto learning more of this world from his sword Durf, and Naruto even learning some more about the first two Hokage from Jiraiya, who after all was the student of the late third Hokage, Hiruzen. There were a lot of new jutsu that Naruto wanted to take on, one of them being the Wind-style Wind Dragon Jutsu. That seemed powerful, and one that he could add to his arsenal, along with some other wind jutsus that could be helpful as well. There was a lot of commotion going on with the school as well though. All of the boys were setting off to leave. Even Gushe was being called to arms, as Naruto tried to figure out what was happening. And then that's when they learned that the boys were being sent off to war. Jiraiya, he shook his head. Mr. Colbert watched on as the boys were leaving off for the battlefield. The two of them, as they saw their expressions, they could tell that the other had seen this kind of thing before. Children being sent off to a battlefield. It seemed like no matter what the world, people always could relate to the same problems that you went through. With the girls being the only ones left on campus, aside from Jiraiya and Naruto, there wasn't much else to do. Life still went on. That was until Agnes and her musketeer force arrived. All classes were stopped immediately and the girls were all dragged outside for defense training. Agnes reasoning that they were the only ones left here, and if the war did manage to reach this far, they were going to be expected to fight, unless they were going to flee. Of course, Naruto was already doing his own training anyway with Jiraiya, so they didn't have much to worry about. Although Agnes did try to sneak attack him a few times, only for her to be beaten down over and over again. Jiraiya would comment on the girl and her nice figure. She was a bit muscular in tone. The short blonde hair, that was a new aesthetic he had never seen. But she definitely had a fierce tenacity about her. And she was an ever-growing monster. If Jiraiya didn't know better, he'd think that Tsunade had family in another world. Of course though, even for someone as great as Jiraiya, the moment he started commenting on Agnes's body, well, things didn't go too well for him, as he suffered a deadly punch to the face. Even Naruto was stunned, although he couldn't say that it wasn't unwarranted. Ultimately though, Agnes could tell that Naruto was capable of taking care of himself, so there wasn't much to worry about. In the meantime, there was another new face making his way to campus. A young man named Julio. He had arrived from the country of Romelia, and he had been sent by to the school in order to assist in any sort of dilemma, as war seemed to be on the horizon though. Julio taking a great liking towards Naruto, as the two of them sized each other up. Naruto wondered what his deal was. He could tell that Julio wasn't like anyone else that he had met in this world so far. He acted calm and polite and aloof, but Naruto could see. He could tell just as easily as anyone. He had some serious skill. As Julio watched the girls train and spar together, and he also observed how Naruto was conducting his own training, eventually Naruto's suspicions would be proven right, as Julio challenged him to a duel. Now, unlike in the original, where Julio fought against Saito and he pretty much had to hold back because Saito wasn't capable of doing much without Durf, as Durf was the only reason Saito was able to have any fighting skill at all, Naruto was the different case. While Naruto learned a lot from Durf, Durf learned just as much from Naruto, mainly because Naruto was already a skilled enough fighter before he got him. And because of that, Julio knew that Naruto was different, and he wanted to test that. They had set their spar for the next day, believing that would give them enough time to prepare. Naruto took on the challenge, since he wanted to see what he was capable of doing himself. There were ever-changing times going on around this school, with many growing forces in the shadows. And not just in this world, but back in Naruto's home, the Akatsuki were steadily making their move when word of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki's sudden disappearance was made knowledge. And this wasn't a normal disappearance either. Many in the group had become worried. If the Nine-Tails truly was gone, then it means they'd have to wait until it respawned somewhere. That meant that their plans might be slowed down a great deal. However, the leader of the group was not too concerned. If the Nine-Tails really was gone, then it meant that it would just be that much easier to capture it, as they wouldn't have to deal with a shinobi, but just the beast. For now, they would stay the course, and continue collecting the Jinchuriki, one by one. And also, a certain black-haired shinobi was also making his moves, as he had defeated his master, the Snake Sanin. He too received word of Naruto's sudden disappearance. But if the Akatsuki didn't have him, then who did? That was something that many in this world wanted to know. And it was something that they would find in the future. This concludes What If Naruto Was Louise's Familiar, Naruto, The Tale of Two Sages, Part 4. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue My Hero Academia, The Dark Knight Returns, What If Deku Was Batman, Part 4. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.